guys, welcome back to the channel. I'm Fran, I'm from Venezuela, and today we are going to be watching a video called Cost of Groceries in Britain versus America, Food Prices in UK versus US. So I love this kind of videos because I love to compare prices. I love going and seeing grocery stores and supermarkets and all that because I'm nosy like that. So this sort of videos, like, they made me very happy. My bet is that Britain's gonna win. It's gonna be more expensive, but I don't know. So let's see it, and comment, like, subscribe, and start.
Hi, this is Texas Dara. Back home
she's in
after
Texas.
spending another summer in England, and I'm here to do a quick intro to what is going to be the nerdiest video I have ever done on my channel.
Love it. Yes.
I'm going to compare the cost of British and American groceries by first taking you on a little shopping trip at a British supermarket chain, Tesco, and then comparing the prices of all the items I bought with products bought at Kroger, an American supermarket chain.
Yeah.
I have spent dozens of hours compiling this video, filming, editing, calculating, spreadsheets, online research, etc. Back in my career as a marketer in the food industry,
she was a marketer.
Big bucks to do this analysis. But now I'm a retired marketer with a little YouTube channel. So please pay me by giving this video a thumbs up, or making a nice comment, or even subscribing if you find it interesting, helpful, or at least
it's gonna be like, because that was her job, so she must be very
let's let Gloucestershire Dara take us shopping. I've been asked about cost of living differences between the US and the UK, and one thing that people seem to be interested in is the cost of groceries specifically.
Definitely.
So I'm going to tackle that in today's video. I'm here in front of Tesco in the wind, and I'm going to be going in and buying kind of a typical shopping basket full of groceries. And then I will compare the cost of all those items versus what they would cost at Kroger in Dallas, Texas. Like any good grocery shopper, I'm going to begin my shopping trip in the produce section. Well, let's go look at the cost of strawberries. These fine British strawberries from West Sussex are £2.30 for a 400-gram punnet. Before I show you the price comparison, here's a quick peek behind the scenes to view all the math I did for every single product in this video, converting from imperial to metric measurements and converting currencies to make an equivalent data point to compare the price gap and see if the British product was more or less expensive than the American one. Let's jump into our first example, strawberries. Doing all that complicated math, the result was the British strawberries are 6% more expensive than the American ones. Bananas are £1 1 pence per kilo. American bananas are 49 cents a pound. And when you do the conversion, it means those British bananas are 13% more expensive. Easy peeler mandarins are £2.
I have to say, I don't really know. I don't understand why some chains or some places have sort of like products that you can peel, you know, like avocados, tangerines, even, I don't think I've seen bananas like that, but cantaloupes. In this sort of like mesh bags, I've never really understood, and more because I mean, I guess it's because they want to like sell you the whole like per pound or per whatever, you know, they're going to sell you like half a pound of tangerines. But I've seen those sort of like mesh thingies, and also when they sell you like just one cantaloupe. So I don't really understand like what's the point of like doing this, or you can just like get them. I think we should recycle more. So I don't really understand this sort of like thing. But also maybe it's because the other alternative is maybe like use plastic, so that's actually worst. So maybe that's why, but I don't understand why they have like little like mesh thingies when it's just like one thing that you can peel and it's just like one. I don't really understand the logic behind it.
$50 for a 600-gram bag. Back in the States, looking at a similar item, we have a 3-pound bag of these mandarin clementine oranges for $4.49, which makes the British ones 53% more expensive.
Like in general,
at this point, I was kind of freaking out because I know that I felt like I was spending less money on produce in Britain. And the first few items were all more expensive once I did the conversions, but fasten your seatbelts.
things are about to change. Fresh broccoli.
I was gonna say maybe she really wouldn't like. Don't let me do math. Let me live in ignorance because I'm gonna be happier.
Is £1.92 per kilo.
Buying broccoli by the pound in the States is $1.79 for a
it's
pound,
cheaper.
making the British broccoli 41% cheaper.
British carrots,
Another thing I don't understand, why do they sell carrots in plastic bags? Just like it's carrots, you're gonna peel them anyway. So like why? And even like those big carrots, because if there's like baby carrots that you're gonna just eat, you're gonna peel them, you're just gonna like eat them and that's it. Like I can understand maybe it's just like baby carrots because people usually eat those and they need to be like pre-washed or whatever. But the thing with like big carrots they usually use for cooking, it's gonna like you're gonna peel them or you're gonna cook them, whatever. Like it's gonna be like you don't need to wash them. So why are they selling these things in plastic bags? Like that's so no. Like the environment, we have to be like more eco-conscious, eco-friendly. I hate this. I hate plastic bags in produce.
1 kilo bag is only 50p.
A 2-pound
but
bag
that's
of
so
carrots
cheap.
in the States is $2.49, which makes
God,
the
that's so
British
cheap.
carrots a whopping 78%
It's so cheap.
cheaper.
They're cheaper.
And these
Everyone
nice
should
bell
be eating more
peppers
carrots.
in red, green, yellow, or
Love
orange
yellow
are
bell
only
peppers.
55p per pepper.
This one didn't surprise me at all. When you buy
Per
bell
pepper.
peppers in the US, the green ones aren't
Wow,
that
but hold on, 150 each like bell pepper in the US. That's an insane, like that's so expensive. Like it's blowing my mind how expensive it is. How are you gonna be paying 150 for one bell pepper? That's crazy.
expensive. But I always buy red, yellow, or orange, and they're crazy expensive, like $1.49 each one.
Yeah, that's
so
so-
yes,
yeah.
the British peppers were
I prefer
55%
greens and yellows,
cheaper.
actually.
These cherry tomatoes are 1 pound
Tomatoes.
for a
Tomatoes.
300-gram packet. But these are the really good ones. The sugar bell
Oh, they're
tomatoes, they're kind of
they're
small
bright
cherry
red, they're
tomatoes.
beautiful.
They are 1 pound 80 for 220 grams.
To try and keep
think that's
this
okay.
an
Not
apples
that
to apples
expensive.
equivalent, if you pardon
But it is very expensive in the US.
the metaphor, I'm comparing the really fancy cherry tomatoes
Okay,
in
they're
Britain
fancier.
with
Okay.
the similarly really fancy cherry tomatoes in the States. And the British ones were 15% cheaper.
These packages
Those UK
of
tomatoes
both
are so
red
cheap.
and green grapes,
Oh, I love it. They
500
have
grams for 1 pound 90.
I could not find American grapes that were both red and green packed in
Yeah,
the
I've never
same
seen those.
container, so I just went for red grapes. And looking at equivalent
They say-
products, the British ones were
Grapes are so
21%
expensive in
cheaper.
the USA.
This bag of baby potatoes is 1 pound 20 for 1 kilo, although
Or
it's
just for,
actually
like, the
on
whole
sale
bag?
for 79p right now.
Again,
So
it was really
cheap.
hard to find an equivalent, but the closest thing I could find in the States for these small potatoes were the store brand Kroger new potatoes at $3.99 for
It's
a
so
1.5
cheap in
pound
the
bag.
UK.
That made the
Everyone
British
should be eating
ones
carrots and
75%
potatoes.
cheaper.
And if you fancy making some pesto or insalata caprese, a pot
Yeah,
of basil is 1 pound 90.
I actually went and looked at the store at the size of the basil plant in Kroger, and it looked a lot smaller than the ones in Tesco. So when I did my equivalent, I multiplied the price of the American basil by 1.5 times. British basil, 49% cheaper.
A lot
Yeah,
has
it's
been
so cheaper
said about
by a
how
lot.
American bread is just not good, and it's kind of true, I'm sorry to say.
It's true, yes,
So
I'm
let's
sorry,
look
but
at
it's
some
true.
good bread here in the UK. One thing I've noticed is that seeded breads are really popular here.
It is more
way more
expensive, I
popular
guess.
than they are in the States. And they are delicious
Oh.
and nutritious. This is Ian and my favorite new bread. It's Tesco Finest brand, and it's wholemeal seeds and grains. And it's $1.35 per loaf, which is 800
Not too
grams.
bad.
The bread aisle is so different in the US than it is in the UK. Most
Yes.
of the bread
Yes,
in the
it
bread
is.
section is this kind of sandwich bread, which is not
Yes.
very healthy or very good. And it's full of preservatives. And the honey wheat really is not whole grain. In order to get bread that is more healthy, you need to shop in this section where things actually
or
have
wheat.
whole grains. It's hard to find something that's equivalent to what we buy in the UK
Yeah.
because the store brand private selection is the Kroger store brand. The store brand has whole wheat, but they don't have anything with seeds. And then this is a really popular brand. It has whole grains, but
Pepperidge Farm.
oh, actually, this is new.
No, but it's
They do have a
multi-seed.
whole grain with seeds. So this might be the closest to what we buy in England, and it's $4.99 for a loaf.
This is a biggie. I
my
did
God,
actually buy
Jesus.
that Pepperidge Farm whole grain with seeds bread, and it's pretty good. The slices are huge, but it's pretty good bread. Not as good as the Tesco bread, though. And that
That's
Tesco
so
bread,
expensive.
72% cheaper.
With our bread, we need some butter. So here we have some Tesco brand regular salted butter, and it's $1.79 for 250 grams.
It's quite
American
cheap.
butter
I
is
think-
also pretty expensive, so store
Yeah, I
brand
was gonna
butter,
say.
comparing American and British, the British butter was 6% cheaper.
Our
by a
favorite
lot.
kind of jam, wherever we are in the world, is Bon Maman. Here is the
it's
raspberry
delicious.
conserve.
It's so
Normally
good,
it's
but I'm guessing it's very expensive
£3.30
in the
for
US.
370 grams, but it's actually on sale for only $2.60 now.
Oh,
I was not
good.
surprised to see that with the
Yeah.
American jam being about $6.50 for a jar, the British jam was 39% cheaper. Although
But
I have to confess,
it's
when we
expensive
first
in
got to
general.
England this summer, this exact jam was on sale for £2 a jar, and I stocked up a ton. I forgot to film
Yes,
honey in
good idea.
England, but I really wanted to show this comparison because it's a big deal. We love honey, and it's crazy expensive in the States. This comparison
Yes.
shows both of these little plastic bottles
Like
are
by a lot.
340 grams, a pound and a half in Britain.
And I have to say, it's not even like good honey. Well, it's normal honey. Like it's honey. Like honey's gonna be good always, but it's not like artisanal honey. It's just like honey that comes like in a plastic
And
bottle.
$4.50 in the States, making the British honey 60% cheaper.
These store brand free range eggs, medium size, are £1.50 for a 6-pack.
gonna
I'm
be
going to show
similar
you
in the
now
US.
why it's hard to compare eggs between countries. Obviously, our eggs are kept in the refrigerated section here, and
That's so weird to me that in the US, like that's a normal thing to do because I've never seen that. I think anywhere else in the world, I think it's usually I'm used to just like having eggs, in the counter. And if you go to a supermarket or it's just, it's in counters. So it's weird to me that the USA always like refrigerates their eggs and they have to like when they buy them, they have to like put them in the fridge, and it's so weird. And I never really understood why is that a thing? Why do you have to refrigerate eggs? They're eggs. Like why do you need to do that? I've never understood
we
that.
have these cage-free eggs that are store brand. We don't have them in 6-packs like they do in England. So
Oh.
I'll just equivalize for the fact that they're sold in dozens. But one thing is,
Yeah,
it says
it's the normal thing.
cage-free. It does
like the
not
big
say
carton.
free range. They have other eggs that are called free range. And then these are the regular store brand eggs that
Yeah,
don't
the
say
normal
anything
ones.
about free range or cage-free, which mean they're kept in cages, and that's gross.
So the American eggs come in a dozen, but the British
Oh, but
ones were 10% more expensive.
Let's compare prices on two different kinds of cheese. Here is an extra mature or sharp cheddar, and for 400 grams, that is £3.
The Kroger brand cheddar cheese
little
is
expensive, I
$2.49
think.
for 8 ounces. It's the orangey kind of Wisconsin style cheddar. That makes the British cheese 17% cheaper. Although, knowing what both of these cheeses are like, I would say the British cheese tastes better.
Then let's also look.
Again, I have to say I've had American cheese and it's it can be a journey. I don't think they really are known for their good cheese. That's all I'm gonna say.
At the
So
double
she's right.
Gloucester, that is £2.85 for 200 grams. I'm looking to see what English cheeses they have. They used to have
so
double
many. They have,
Gloucester,
like, a
but
good
it looks
selection.
like they
I wanna
don't
try all of them.
anymore. But there is a Cotswold cheese
Oh.
and some aged cheddars, and Wensleydale, of course, and Stilton.
I was
No, Dia,
disappointed
what's
that I couldn't do a comparison of double Gloucester because they no longer sell it at Kroger. But this just
Oh.
shows you how expensive the imported British cheeses are. Wensleydale with
course, it's
cranberries is 55% cheaper by weight in Britain
yeah,
than it
because
is
it's imported.
in the States.
Something
it
I
makes
love
sense.
to buy is fresh mozzarella. So here we have the Galbani brand, which is for a 125 gram ball of fresh
That's
mozzarella.
like very,
it's
like,
2
that's small.
pounds.
It's like tiny, a tiny
And it
bowl.
comes packed in water.
Yes.
There's
Usually
also
mozzarella cheeses
the
are like that.
Creamfields brand, which 210 grams, only 69
super cheap.
pence, which is
That's
crazy.
so cheap.
This fresh mozzarella is 80% cheaper than the equivalent
Like, by an
American store
insane
brand.
amount
And of
cheaper.
course, we need to talk about milk. So I'm going to look here at the semi-skimmed milk, which we call 2% or low fat in the States. And that semi-skimmed milk is £1.45 for 4 pints or 2.3 liters.
Because we have the whole
2.2
crazy
liters.
thing going on between the US and the UK, where pints are not the same number of ounces and gallons are
Yes.
hopelessly confusing,
the
I
same
decided
boat.
to do
Yes.
this all metric. So here are the prices for British and American milk shown in liters, and the UK milk is 18% cheaper.
The hummus is good and it's inexpensive. £1.50 for a 300 gram tub.
10 ounces of
I think it's
American
cheaper
hummus
to,
is almost
like, buy
$4, and
instead of
that
making it
makes the
yourself.
British hummus about 55% cheaper.
Here's a
like an
nice
insane amount cheaper.
boneless salmon
Wow, that's a
side
gigantic
or
salmon.
fillet or fillet. That is £18.50 per kilo.
Oh my god.
Salmon
per
is
kilo.
expensive in both places. In the States, it's about
Everywhere.
$15 a pound,
Yeah.
and that makes the British
Yeah, I
salmon
wouldn't expect
about
like
a
salmon
third less
fillets to be
expensive.
cheap.
These chicken fillets, these chicken breasts, which appear to be free-range chicken, cost £7.50 for 650 grams.
I tried to find an
I
American
think that's
chicken which would
expensive.
also be free range so that it was an equivalent
but it's
comparison.
expensive
And
in
it
the
did seem
UK.
that the British chicken was about 3% more expensive. Not very much of a difference.
A
it is
British
more expensive.
beef fillet steak is 8 pounds for 210
steak?
grams.
I was
That's, I think,
expecting the British
insane.
beef to be more expensive, but for filet mignon, it was actually 44% less expensive.
Okay, because
A
it's filet mignon
sirloin
is steak, which I
steak.
think is more expensive.
Is £4.60 for
It's cheaper,
227 grams. That's very specific.
When I compared the organic grass-fed sirloin steak, it also was more expensive than it is in Britain. Britain was 41% cheaper.
That's surprising, I
Minced
think.
beef that is only 5% fat is £3.49 for 500 grams.
I couldn't compare the exact same kind
It's so,
of
like,
minced beef to ground
so
beef
much more
because the mince
expensive.
was 5% fat, and in the States it's 7% fat, but this was as close as I could get, and it's 45% cheaper in Britain.
That's
A whole
yeah,
leg
so much more
of
expensive.
lamb is
Super expensive, I'm
13
guessing.
pounds per kilo.
Okay, this is funny. I could not find leg of lamb at Kroger. When I searched on leg of lamb
doesn't
in the
exist?
Kroger website, all that came up was a Lego Lamborghini race car set. So we're not going to be able to do that comparison. I decided instead to just look at lamb chops. And not surprisingly, they were a lot less expensive in Britain, about 52%.
Texas Dara here again to
Interesting.
pop in and say, let me know what is surprising you about this video. And if there are
A lot
any
of things.
products where you think I bought the wrong thing, tell me what I should have bought.
Here's our favorite sauces we've been using this summer. The teriyaki sauce, £1.50 for 150
I think it's going to be
ml.
cheaper in the US.
Teriyaki sauce was one thing that was less
no?
expensive in the US. Although, again, I've tried this product and it's really not as good as the British one, even though the British one is
interesting.
38% more expensive.
If you want some chicken tikka masala, that's £3 for a 420 gram jar, unless you buy it on sale.
actually
And then,
quite
of
a-
course,
that's-
it's a better deal.
I was able to
It's a
compare the
much
same
better deal.
brand, Patox, in the US as the UK. A lot more expensive in the States. 62% less expensive
Like by
in
a
Britain.
lot.
And mango chutney is £4.10 for
that looks
530
good.
grams. Unless you want the store brand, that's only £1.40 They're 200.
I love that they have like chutneys like bought like ready. I'm guessing that's like ready to eat in like bottles already at the market. Like that's so cool.
Even though I always buy the store brand chutney, I couldn't find it in the States. So this is Sharwood's brand chutney in Britain compared to Patak brand in Texas. The British one was almost 50% less expensive.
Coleman's dry mustard is £2.30 for 57 grams.
Good old Coleman's dry mustard from Norfolk was $6.50 for a 4-ounce container in Texas, making the British pack 15% cheaper.
Now let's talk about ice cream.
Ice cream.
Oreo
Okay, I love
ice
that
cream
aisle.
is £3.50 for 480 milliliters.
I was not surprised that the British Oreo ice cream was a lot more expensive, 90% higher.
And good old Ben and Jerry's, that's an American product, is £5.15 for a 465 milliliter carton.
It's cheaper in the
I was
US.
surprised that Ben and Jerry's ice cream, another American brand, was actually less expensive in Britain, 6% lower.
That's crazy.
Let's do some
This is an American
toiletries.
brand.
Colgate toothbrushes in the 360-degree style are £2.50.
Oh, they have like a lot of things on
Normally
sale.
£5.
I thought both of these Colgate toothbrushes were really expensive. The UK was 10%
They
higher.
are.
My favorite are
Both are
these
expensive.
Pro toothbrushes. They're Tesco store brand, but they're extra soft for sensitive gums. And
How much are they?
only 75
Oh wow, that's like
This is
the
where we
Colgate
see a
is
big
like
difference. When you look at
so
the
much more
store brand
expensive.
sensitive toothbrushes, the British one is 57%
By
cheaper
a
than
lot.
the US.
Similarly, you can get Sensodyne brand toothpaste,
It's
the
probably
rapid
more
bleed
expensive than
stuff.
Colgate.
75 milliliter
but
is
they're also on
£5
sale.
normally,
So many things on sale.
for £3 right now.
Comparing the same brand of sensitive toothpaste, Sensodyne Rapid
It's more
Relief,
expensive.
British one was 11% more expensive.
But the Tesco store brand complete
Cheaper.
sensitive toothpaste is only £1. And they don't bother with all that extra packaging.
This was the only
Good.
similar item I could find at Kroger. The Kroger store brand that compares to Sensodyne, and it was $4.29 for a tube of toothpaste.
Yes,
that
store
makes the
brands
British
are
store
cheaper in the
brand
UK.
sensitive toothpaste 68% less expensive than the
interesting.
American one.
As I wrap up this video, I have a few important caveats about how I did the comparisons. First of all, obviously, exchange rates vary constantly. One thing
course.
that's obvious is that there are so many more store brands in Europe than there are in the US. I worked in the food industry for 30 years and can tell you that's always been the case, but there are lots more store brand
didn't know that.
products available now in the US than there used to be years ago. Tried to buy what I actually buy when I'm shopping, but as you saw
Yes.
a couple times when I couldn't get a store brand equivalent in the States, I had to just use the branded product in the analysis. Speaking
Yeah,
of
of course.
brands, I did include a couple American brands and British brands just so that we could see if the theory holds that a brand is going to be more expensive when it's not in the country of origin.
Yes.
But that wasn't always the case.
Now let's look
Yes,
at the
like
total
the ice
cost
cream.
of the two shopping baskets. In Britain, it was £122, and in the US, it was $212.
Okay, but with the
After
exchange
equivalizing,
rate-
it was 32% cheaper to shop in Britain versus America.
If you're interested in seeing more
Cheaper,
shopping
that's
videos,
kinda crazy.
I've done several other ones on my channel. I did 2 videos in which I did full shopping trips in the US and the UK since I live in both countries. And you can see one
wondering
video
her
compares
situation, like,
high-end
what is it?
stores, what those shopping trips were like, and the other video compares low-end grocery shopping and what those stores were like. So you can check those out if you're interested. I also did several videos where I chose specific categories in the store so that you can see what's it like shopping for sugar in England versus sugar
like
in
dairy.
the US. I chose several categories that, as someone who shops in both places a lot, seemed pretty different to me. So I will link to all those videos in the description. Thanks so much for watching this video, and do something good in
this
the
was-
world today.
This was very interesting. I think ultimately I'm surprised by the UK. Like it's cheaper. It's cheaper like by a lot. Actually, but I was surprised by the fact that like she mentioned like ice cream. Like ice cream because it was like a very like obvious sort of product that she mentioned. But I'm surprised by the fact that you know, you're expecting like brands from that country to be obviously cheaper in the country that, you know, it's an American brand, it's going to be cheaper in the US, because again, it's not imported. But apparently it isn't. Like the ice cream one kind of is shocking to me because I don't know, like I was expecting it to be like the other way around. But also I think it really does depends on, I think, because I think with products like not just like sugar or like flour, stuff like that, but when it comes to like dairy products, dairy and meats and yeah, you know, everything that has to do with like cheese, milk, meat, fish, things that are like very like depending on like where you are. I think those are like, to me, I would think like those are the ones that are going to vary the most, because again, you know, you can't keep, you're not gonna like import eggs from like another place. You're just gonna be, you know, it's gonna be like everything that the country and the city itself maybe produces, right? And for instance, like cheeses are so hard because cheeses are usually like local. You can't, there's imported, obviously they always like they can import cheese, but again, it does depend. If you're like looking for something local, it really does depend on so many things and so many variables, so it's gonna be like, it's gonna change. And also again with the eggs, it's the same thing. Like it's gonna be like the prices are gonna vary, and I think it's gonna vary depending on like on what season. If the eggs, probably like the chickens, they had like a problem with like corn, that, you know, I'm guessing like corn, they feed like the chickens with corn. So if they had like a bad season of corn, maybe like those chickens, you know, it's gonna be more expensive to keep the chickens. So, you know, eggs are gonna be more expensive. But maybe it's like a period in time, like for 6 months, eggs were like so expensive, and then they're just gonna like lower the price. So again, it's very like, it depends on so many things, and it's very variable, depending on like what situation the world happens to be in. And again, and not just that, but also like what sort of situation like the city or the country like is going through. There's like so many variables that is sort of like insane thing to like compare, especially when it comes to like those products that are constantly like changing prices, and not just something like pasta. Like pasta, I wouldn't expect to vary in price that much, because pasta is just like, so it's gonna be pasta. And I don't know, like flour, it's not that depending on like on the weather, on like political situations happening in different countries, which is the case for like eggs, for instance. I think eggs are something that really does vary depending on like a lot of things. But yeah, this was very interesting and quite surprising, I should say. And in the end, it's kind of funny because like, again, she was like, oh my god, everything's more expensive in the UK. But then you realize, no, it was actually like so much cheaper. Another thing is, I don't really know if she did this in London. I don't believe she mentioned like where she was from, because she mentioned Texas, Austin specifically, but I don't think she mentioned like where in England she was. But maybe it was London. So yeah, very surprising, and yeah, it wasn't what I was expecting at all, because, you know, it's in the UK, it's cheaper, and it's cheaper by a lot. So you have to like get groceries in England. But that was it for today, and I'll see you next time. Bye.